Yo, Laker Nation, I cannot believe I am recording a third video about this situation, but here we are. If you haven't watched the first two videos about LeBron's explosive interview and Luka's incredible response, go back and watch those right now because you need the full picture to understand the magnitude of what I'm about to tell you. Because if you thought it couldn't get any crazier, if you thought the drama had peaked, if you thought we had seen the most shocking moment of the Lakers offseason already, let me tell you right now, you were dead wrong. Rob Pelinka, the president of basketball operations and general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers, just went on ESPN and destroyed everything. The media, the narratives, the rumors. He went scorched earth, and the NBA will never be the same. Let me break this down for you because every single detail matters. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second, but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly, the biggest way to support this content, every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. So let me paint the picture of where we are right now. It's mid-May 2026. The Lakers were swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference semifinals 4-0. Luka Doncic, their franchise cornerstone who led the league in scoring at 33.5 points per game, missed the entire playoffs with a grade 2 hamstring strain that turned out to be deeper and more severe than originally diagnosed. Austin Reeves, they're 23. 3 points per game scorer, missed the first 4 games of the first round with an oblique injury. LeBron James at 41 carried the team past Houston in the first round, averaging 23.2 points. Then watched the season end when the Thunder proved too much without Luka. The series clinching moment came when Chet Holmgren dunked over the Lakers with 32.8 seconds left in Game 4, and SGA sealed it with free throws after LeBron missed a driving bank shot with 20 seconds remaining. After the elimination, Pelinka held his standard end-of-season press conference alongside JJ Redick on May 12th. He said all the right things. The team had a lot to be proud of with 53 wins, their most since Phil Jackson's final season. He talked about wanting to honor LeBron's process and give him time with his family to decide his future. He praised LeBron as a player who honored the game like no one before. He said any team would love to have LeBron on their roster. He confirmed they want Austin Reeves back and that Reeves wants to stay. He announced plans to hire 2 assistant GMs, one focused on player evaluation and the draft, the other on cap strategy, analytics, and data. He talked about relocating the G League team to Coachella Valley to free up space at the practice facility for a new biomechanics lab, movement lab, and recovery lab built in collaboration with the Dodgers organization. He called it a full rebuild and retool. Standard off-season stuff for a team that fell short. But then Stephen A. Smith went on First Take on May 14th and blew everything up. He said the Lakers don't particularly like LeBron James. He talked about how Clutch Sports and Rich Paul got on the organization's nerves over the years by manipulating narratives, especially around the Westbrook trade disaster. He said the tension has been building for years and has finally reached a breaking point. He mentioned Rich Paul's own comments on the Game Over podcast about how some NBA players actively steer prospects away from Clutch because of their dislike for LeBron. Then came the Jeannie Buss airport video where she laughed when asked about a LeBron statue and gave what many saw as a deliberately vague answer. Then ESPN's detailed report about LeBron feeling the Lakers took him for granted all season, citing the game ball incident where Pelinka gave it to Redick for his 100th coaching win instead of recognizing LeBron's combined wins record. Sources close to LeBron said the organization had already begun shifting fully toward a post-LeBron future centered around Doncic and Reeves. Now Pelinka had maintained his professional composure through all of this. He's a former agent. He's a deal maker. He's the guy who negotiated Kobe Bryant's contracts. He doesn't do public drama. He doesn't engage with media personalities. He operates behind closed doors. That's his style, and it's always been his style, which is exactly why what happened next was so utterly shocking. Pelinka agreed to appear on First Take. Let that sink in. The president of basketball operations of the Los Angeles Lakers, the general manager of a franchise that just sold for $10 billion under new owner Mark Walter, voluntarily walked into the lion's den of sports media to sit across from the very people who had been tearing his organization apart for a week straight. Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharpe, Molly Karam hosting. This was not a press conference where Pelinka could control the questions and the environment. This was First Take. Live, unscripted, no safety net. It started calm. Molly asked Pelinka about the end of season press conference and the plans for the offseason. Pelinka repeated many of the same talking points. 2 new assistant GMs, the 25th pick in the draft, free agency flexibility, building around Luka. He was measured, professional, exactly what you'd expect from a man in his position. He even praised Stephen A. at one point, calling him one of the most influential voices in sports media and saying he respects the platform even when he disagrees with the commentary. And then Stephen A asked the question. He looked at Pelinka and said, flat out, do the Lakers actually want LeBron James back? And the room changed. You could feel it through the screen. The lights felt brighter, the silence was heavier, and Pelinka's face did something I've never seen before. The practiced smile disappeared. The media-trained composure cracked. For the first time in his career, Rob Pelinka looked genuinely angry on national television. Let me stop you right there, Pelinka said, and his voice had an edge to it that made Stephen A actually lean back in his chair. I've sat quietly for a week while this network, this show, and specifically you, Stephen, have told the world that the Los Angeles Lakers don't like LeBron James. You went on television and said that we've been frustrated with clutch sports, that the Westbrook trade is still lingering, that there's tension and resentment inside our building, and you framed it as though you have some kind of inside access to our organization. Let me be perfectly clear, your sources are wrong. Your characterization of this franchise is wrong. And the narrative you've been pushing for the last week has been reckless, irresponsible, and frankly harmful to the players and people who work inside our building. Stephen A tried to jump in. He started with his signature. Now hold on a minute. But Pelinka wasn't having it. He put his hand up and kept going. No, Stephen, you've had your time. You've had a week of airtime, millions of viewers, hours of content built around tearing down our franchise. Now it's my turn, Pelinka said. I gave LeBron James a game ball to JJ Redick for his 100th win? Yes, I did. Do you know why? Because that's what championship organizations do. They celebrate milestones for their coaches. They build culture. And LeBron, by the way, was the first person to congratulate JJ in that moment. He handed him the ball. He embraced him. The idea that this caused some kind of fracture in our relationship is a fabrication. It's a story that somebody leaked because it fit a narrative that the media wanted to run with. And you ran with it without checking with a single person inside our building. Bro, I had to stand up from my couch. I was pacing around my living room. Rob Pelinka, the guy who whispers in boardrooms and negotiates behind closed doors, was going full scorched earth on live television. Shannon Sharpe was sitting there with his mouth open. Molly Karam had her hand on her chest. The production crew didn't know whether to cut to commercial or keep rolling. And Jeannie Buss, Pelinka continued, you and every other outlet took a 15-second airport clip and turned it into a referendum on our franchise's relationship with the greatest player we've ever had. She said we don't talk about statues while a player is still playing. That is a fact. That is our policy. Magic Johnson's statue went up after he retired. Kareem's after he retired. Kobe's after he retired. Shaq's after he retired. Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Pat Riley, Chick Hearn, all after their time with the franchise was complete. That's not disrespect, that's protocol. That's honoring the process. And the fact that the media twisted that into Jeannie laughing at LeBron's legacy is a perfect example of why athletes and front office executives have lost trust in sports journalism. Now, let me tell you what's actually happening inside this organization, Pelinka said, and here's where he shifted from defense to offense. We just had the best season in 15 years, 53 wins. We won a first-round series against Houston without our best player and without Austin Reeves for the first 4 games. LeBron James, at 41 years old, was magnificent. Rui Hachimura showed he can be a legitimate 3rd or 4th scorer on a championship team. Marcus Smart brought the defensive intensity and leadership that this franchise needed, and our young players Dalton Knecht, Bronny James in his moments, the entire developmental pipeline showed growth. But I'm also not going to sit here and pretend that we're good enough to beat Oklahoma City as currently constructed, Pelinka said. We're not. The Thunder went 8-0 against us this season. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who might be the best player in the world right now. They have Chet Holmgren, who sealed our season with a dunk. They have Ajay Mitchell, who dropped 28 on us in Game 4 and is only going to get better. They have Alex Caruso, a former Laker who I let walk away and who came back to haunt us with back-to-back threes in Game 4. That is a championship caliber roster built through drafting, development, and strategic acquisition, and we need to close that gap fast. Hey, so here's what I'm going to say about our offseason plans. Pelinka continued, and now he was fully in control of the room. Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp were just watching. Nobody was interrupting anymore. Step 1. Austin Reaves is our priority. He averaged 23.3 points and 5.5 assists. He told us he wants to continue his journey here. We told his representatives we feel the same way. That deal will get done. There is no scenario where Austin Reaves is not a Laker next season. Step 2. Luka Doncic will be healthy, and he will be the centerpiece of everything we do. He led the NBA in scoring at 33.5 points per game. He averaged 7.7 rebounds and 8.3 assists. His hamstring is pain-free. He's already begun his offseason regimen. When training camp opens, he will be in peak condition, and the roster we put around him will be built to maximize every single thing he does on the basketball court. Step 3. Pelinka said, and he paused for a long moment. LeBron James. I said at my press conference that we want to honor his process. I said any team would love to have him, and I meant every word, but let me be more specific than I was on May 12th, because the situation demands clarity. LeBron James is the greatest player who has ever worn a Lakers jersey since Kobe Bryant. He brought us a championship in 2020. He broke Kareem's scoring record in our arena. He gave us 8 years of his prime and his post-prime. He accepted a role as the third option this season without complaint because he believed in what we were building, and he carried this team when Luka went down and Austin was hurt, showing the world that at 41, he is still capable of extraordinary basketball. I have spoken to LeBron privately since the season ended, Pelinka said, and I am not going to reveal the contents of those conversations because they deserve to remain private. But I will say this publicly because I think it needs to be said. LeBron James is wanted by the Los Angeles Lakers. Not out of obligation, not out of respect for what he's done, not because it's the politically correct thing to say. He is wanted because he makes us better. He makes Luka better. He makes Austin better. He makes Rui better. He makes Marcus better. He makes every single player in our locker room better. And the plan I have for this offseason, the moves I intend to make, the roster I intend to build includes LeBron James as a critical piece. But, Pelinka said, and he held up one finger, if LeBron decides that his time is done, if he decides that retirement is the right choice for him and his family, then I will respect that decision and I will shake his hand and I will make sure this franchise honors him the way he deserves. And if he decides he wants to play somewhere else, if the Warriors or the Cavaliers or the Knicks or anyone else can offer him something that we can't, I will respect that too, because that's what free agency means. That's the system. But what I will not accept is a media-driven narrative that pushes him out the door before he's ready. The decision belongs to LeBron, not to Stephen A. Smith, not to Shannon Sharp, not to Twitter, not to any podcast or talk show. LeBron James and LeBron James alone decides when and how this chapter ends. The studio erupted. And I mean that literally. The producers behind the cameras started clapping. I could hear it through the microphones. Stephen A. Smith, to his credit, sat there nodding and said something I never thought I'd hear him say. He said, "I respect that. That's a general manager standing up for his franchise and his players, and that's what leadership looks like." But Pelinka wasn't done. He had one more thing to say, and it might have been the most important thing of all. "Let me address the future of this franchise beyond next season," Pelinka said, "because I know that's what the media really wants to talk about. What happens after LeBron? What happens when the greatest career in NBA history actually comes to an end?" Well, let me tell you something about the Los Angeles Lakers. We've navigated the post-Jerry West era. We've navigated the post-Magic era. We've navigated the post-Shaq era. We've navigated the post-Kobe era. And every single time, the media said the Lakers were done, that the dynasty was over, that we'd never get back to the top, and every single time, we proved them wrong. We have a 26-year-old franchise cornerstone in Luka Doncic, who just led the league in scoring. We have a 27-year-old all-star caliber guard in Austin Reaves. We have Rui Hachimura, who proved in the playoffs he belongs on the big stage. We have Marcus Smart, who brings championship DNA. We have the 25th pick in a deep draft. We have cap flexibility. We have 2 new assistant GMs being hired to strengthen our front office infrastructure. We have a new biomechanics lab and recovery facility being built in collaboration with the Dodgers. We have a new owner in Mark Walter who paid $10 billion for this franchise because he believes in what we're building. This is not a franchise in decline. This is a franchise in transition. And there is a massive difference between the two. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the defending champions, and they are excellent, Pelinka said. But they haven't won back-to-back yet. The San Antonio Spurs have Victor Wembanyama, and they're coming. The Denver Nuggets still have Nikola Jokic. The Western Conference is a war zone. And the Los Angeles Lakers are gonna walk into that war zone next season with a healthy Luka Doncic, a re-signed Austin Reeves, and a roster that I guarantee you will look significantly different than the one that just got swept.